Okay, I would like to call this meeting of the Housing Advisory Committee to order. And could we have the roll call? Could we have roll call, please?
Amagashi.
Yes, here.
Gerhardt. Here. Gorman. McKee. Mertens.
Here.
Perry.
Hi.
Hi, Olivia. Nate.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Excellent, thank you.
Good. Farmer Eden. Sanders.
Here.
Schimming. We have a quorum.
Yay. Okay. Well, the first thing on our agenda is the new member introduction to the Housing Advisory Committee. And right here we have Gabriella Gerhardt, is that right? Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, yeah, I'm Gabriella Gerhardt. I'm the new Alder representative to the committee. Really excited to join here today. I've been on the council since April of 2020, so starting my third term. And in that time, been on a lot of committees, but the last year and this year I'm on the Plan Commission. So obviously have been involved in a lot of the housing decisions over the last year. And in my private life, I actually do nonprofit fundraising, and I recently started a job at Habitat for Humanity of Dane County. So doing a lot of work with housing and really excited. Sustainability is also a big focus of mine over the years. So really excited to learn more about the Efficiency Navigator program as well. Yeah, I'm excited to join you. Oh, and I'm the council president this year as well. I know that was referenced too. So
Okay.
yeah.
Just a tiny bit busy.
So yeah, we'll probably be talking about housing and committee of the whole this year. So
Okay.
you can talk to me if you need that.
Okay. Well, thank you. You're certainly a welcome addition to the committee. So, okay.
And could we do introductions of everyone
Sure.
else too? Okay, love that.
Can we start down here?
Yeah, I'm Jenny Sanders, you know me.
And could you tell a little bit? I mean, I know you two know one another, but, for people that might be tuning in for the first time or watching our committee meeting.
I am a realtor. I live in Fitchburg for the last 23-something years. Born and raised in the area here. I'm also on CETA as well. And I'm just glad you're here. Excited to have your input.
Okay. I'll go next. I'm Marshall Mertens. I am a retired affordable housing developer, but developed on the West Coast. And I am a resident of Fitchburg and moved back here upon retirement, and I've been here now about 5 years. So how about Godwin? You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I live here in a place called Fitchburg, and I've been here for how many years? More than 20, almost 30 years. This is a great place to live, for one thing, but we'll see a lot of the things that are coming our way now because it's a lot of development that's coming in our city. This is going to be a very, very interesting time in the future.
Thank you. And it looks like Olivia dashed away so that she didn't have to deal with introductions.
You heard my voice. No,
She's back. So Olivia,
I'm back.
Olivia's back. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Introduce yourself.
I had a runaway dog, I'm sorry. My name's Olivia Perry, and I'm a senior planner in the Dane County Planning and Development Department, and I was the project manager on the Dane County Regional Housing Strategy. Great to meet all of you for the first time, so thanks for your introductions and welcome.
All right. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda is the approval of the April 8th, 2024 minutes. Does anyone have any changes that they would like to see?
I'll move approval.
No, not hearing some. Okay, we have a move in a second. Did you get that, Joyce?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Then next we have,
Yeah, we need
we have a vote, that's right. Can we take a vote?
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Okay, passes. So are there any public appearances for non-agenda items? Okay, we have Mayor, and I'm going to kill your last name.
I know her. It's on? Okay, it's on? Okay, thank you. So
Hi, I'm Mayor Julia Arata Frata. I am here because I think this is my first time that I am approaching the committee, the Housing Committee. As you know, housing is one of my priorities for the next 2 years. And I am happy that you are having this presentation today and also asking you to provide with some initiative project that they can come up from this committee. I know that Joe has a couple of alternative and projects that we are working, but I would like to see more tangible, initiative coming because we have a crisis here in Fitchburg housing. We have 2 years of inventory of lot in the city. We are working very hard with 2 neighborhood plans that they are underdeveloped, but also we need to determine what else we can do, okay? How we can approach, how can we bring density in areas where we haven't considered bringing density. And I know that this is going to take time to, one of the priorities that is coming next year is, the revision of the comprehensive plan and also the revision of the zoning codes. So this is a big project for 2025, but also what else we can do as a city to improve the housing crisis here in Fitchburg. Our city has become very expensive to live. Land has become a commodity. An average lot here costs $100,000, plus you add a couple of $100,000 to build a house. We need at least $400,000 is our average home. So what other things we can think about outside the box that we can implement? So there are a couple of a lot of ideas. Other municipalities are doing a lot of innovating things. And this is something that I would like to expect from this committee to see what else we can do, what are the initiatives we can bring forward. And, so as I mentioned, Gabriela, the Common Council is, also, very involved, talking about housing, and we can bring, this conversation to the Common Council so they can understand also why there is a crisis, not only in Fitchburg, it's in Dane County, in Wisconsin, it's everywhere, but locally how we can, what are the initiatives that we can implement to solve this, not to solve, but to improve this problem. So, and I am glad that Gabriela is planning to bring this conversation to the Common Council through the Committee of the Whole, and to continue talking about housing. So we need to educate the council about the housing crisis too, because they need to understand that, because at the end of the day they are going to make the decision in the future, regarding housing, but they need to have understand the issues, So education is key. So that's it. So thank you for serving, and thank you for, and thank you to Olivia and Hillary for being here today. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have resolutions and ordinances? None?
We have none.
Good. And now, next on the agenda, we have Olivia Perry, who's going to be presenting a Dane County Regional Housing Strategy, or at least speaking about it. So, Olivia, you're up.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And nice to see you, Mayor. Thank you for those comments. Very helpful. I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. Okay, can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Kind of stuff there.
Okay, super. So, oops, this is the wrong one. I'm sorry. Hold on. I have many of them. There we go. So I'm just going to, today I'm going to kind of give an overview of the Dane County Regional Housing Strategy, the 5-year strategic action plan to address the housing crisis, who was involved, why we did strategic planning, some of the activities.
Yes.
Hello?
No, not you. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay, what the some of the activities the Housing Advisory Committee did, some key findings, priorities, and strategies, and some next steps. So overall, the purpose was to work together as a region to identify a shared vision and key housing priorities and strategies we can work on and work towards together to address the housing crisis. We had over 80 advisory committee members, 26 sponsors, 17 municipalities participated, 4 mayors, as well as almost 10 other elected officials from the municipalities. And so why did we actually do strategic planning? So a lot of people, a lot of municipalities and organizations, including Fitchburg, have been working on, affordable housing for a long time, or housing in general. And so we really wanted to capture the momentum of everyone who's working on it and begin to start to bring folks together and share different perspectives. Everyone's got a different need and a different perspective and experience, and really build relationships and share expertise and leverage resources. Another critically important thing was to develop a shared understanding of the housing crisis, the current and future trends, and then really start to flush out housing from this regional perspective and thinking about it sort of regionally, regional thinking. It's a regional crisis requiring more coordinated collaboration, and that can't be solved by one entity. So what did we do in strategic planning? I would say, again, the focus of the RHS process was relationship building and knowledge exchange. We did some major goal setting in the beginning, looked at existing conditions, and did a regional housing analysis. We also did a market analysis and reviewed local policies and programs and best practices, and then got feedback from public engagement and used that to build strategies and the report and our implementation. Right off the beginning, the consultants really wanted to get a handle of what the Housing Advisory Committee felt was important. And so we did 2 kind of sessions where we identified the Housing Advisory Committee identified their top housing priorities for their individual community, organization, and business. And these were the 4 that they came up with: increase the number of affordable workforce units, the number of overall units, increase housing near jobs and transit, and provide more pathways to home ownership. As a region, they said the top priority is to reduce racial disparities in housing and homeownership, build capacity to address housing needs, build relationships, and enhance partnerships and collaboration, and then learn about housing issues, tools, and strategies. So some of the key findings. It was really important to take a step back because we had so many people from different size municipalities. We had people from the cities, towns, and villages, and really kind of establish the planning context. Remind everybody, that we're working in Dane County, 1,200 square miles. We have 61 municipalities, 8 cities, 20 villages, and 33 towns. And really reminding everybody that most of the county is actually rural. Currently, we have a population of 575,000, and half the population is on 7% of the land. So that's dark blue is where the city of Madison is, and another 39% is the cities and villages, and that's on 12% of the land. So a total of 81% of Dane County residents Dane County represents the townships, and almost 70% of those towns are working farms, and the towns actually hold only 14% of the population. Another interesting trend we discovered in this process is that young people are a growing portion of Dane County of our population and accounted for 23% of the population growth, when that cohort is only 0.5% of population growth statewide. The number of people ages 55 and older is growing substantially in Dane County, which aligns with state and national trends, but again, significantly higher than statewide overall. We looked at race over time, and in 2020 and 2010, 18% of our population was diverse, and we were almost at a quarter of diversity in our population as of 2020. Employment growth is a huge factor in our housing crisis. We make up 27% of all job growth in the state, and Employment growth in Dane County was more than double the growth rate in Wisconsin, with 14% growth in Dane County versus 6% statewide. This is a really important slide because it talks about the widening gap between the number of jobs we're creating versus what we project in household population. And this is really, significantly driving down vacancy rates to 3% and below in many Dane County communities. It's actually 1% and 2%. 5% is considered normal when you're talking about housing vacancy rates. So in terms of income, 26% of our households in Dane County, we have 226,600 households. 26% of those households are 60% or below area median income. The dark red is the household growth in each of the income categories from 2020 to 2040, which is our planning horizon. And we have below 30% AMI area median income. This cohort has grown 1.7 times faster than the county overall. And 2.7 is the combined annual growth rate in that income category. This actually shows the disparities in income, household income. When you look at white, it's 80,000 and 38,000 for Black, or 49,000 for Latino. And this is the number of units by type in Dane County. We have 135,700 units that are in single family, about 89,000 in multifamily, and 1,800 in RVs. Now, this is a really important slide because it's an really clear example of our housing shortage. This is the renter supply gap, households that are forced to compete with higher income households for low inventory households. We have a housing gap of 13,300 rental units for households earning 30% AMI and below. And this is obviously also a good example of why prices continue to go up because of this extreme competition. And they're also, on the other end, there are about 22,500 renter households that have incomes over 100% AMI, but only 5,700 rental units that are affordable to them. So this mismatch forces a lot of households to rent down or rent up. And then again, we have the big squeeze evident in the housing supply gap. So for homeowners, it follows a similar trend of lower and higher income households seeking units affordable to other income brackets, really increasing significantly competition for those households. And this is sort of a manifestation of what happens when we have such an extreme housing gap, especially at the lower income levels. This is the share of cost burden households by AMI in Dane County. So our lowest income folks are extremely cost burdened, severely cost burdened, or cost burdened. And it's the same in, and this is a racial breakdown of that cost burden. So the highest number of cost burdened households, almost 50% of folks in Black African households are cost burdened or extremely cost burdened, and same with Hispanic and Latino. This is overall racial disparities in housing. So the average is 59%. White households have 64% ownership, and that goes all the way down to Black African American having the least percentage of home ownership. And this is the sort of weighted average rents in Dane County by building age. As you can see, there's an extreme housing premium for units built at 2010 or later. That's in the red, and the green is 2009 and earlier. And this is a really important slide because it shows how when our supply is the direct correlation between when our supply goes down, how prices go up. The supply is the population. The orange one is the single family building permit, and the blue line is the median house price, household income. So there's a direct correlation to that between those two. And again, this is another example of Dane County median home prices compared to Wisconsin. The median sale price by home age, again, there's a premium. Right now, it's about $450,000 for homes built after 2010 for a single family home. Yeah, now we're going to switch to the targets, housing targets. So overall, again, just to show you the breakout of single family to multifamily and mobile homes. The Regional Strategic Action Plan is asking for 139 or 140,000 new housing units, 7,000 new housing units a year, 67,000, almost 65,000 new owner units, and 74,000 new renter units between 2020 and 2040. This is kind of a breakdown between rental and owner units by the sub areas that you saw earlier in the presentation. And this is the senior housing inventory and production goal. 6,000, we need 6,000 additional senior housing units by 2040. And this is a further breakdown of the household production goals. 7,000, as I was saying, new housing units a year, and that's 2,000 more units a year than we're currently building. 3,300 of those should be new homeowner units, 3,700 renter units, 1,765 new affordable renter units, and 300 new affordable a year senior rental units. And I will share that the Housing Advisory Committee also identified the importance and priority of providing affordable single-family homes, and we're currently producing about 25 units a year, and they want to see us get to 250 units a year of single-family affordable homes. And the next slide is are the housing target projections for municipalities. On this list, Fitchburg is listed as 495 units per year. Fitchburg's 5-year average is 360. So the regional housing strategy calls for Fitchburg to develop 134 more units a year than you're currently building. So we did some public engagement as part of the process. It was really important to the Housing Advisory Committee that we got feedback from people around the county. And we did a survey, and we had over 6,000 respondents. And the full survey response is in the report if you're interested. This is just 2 questions that I'm sharing with you. Should all county residents have access to housing? 96% of respondents believe all Dane County residents should have access to housing. Most do not believe that housing is currently accessible to everyone. And then when asked who was responsible for the housing crisis, 82% of respondents indicated local jurisdictions should address the housing crisis, while 59% also indicated the private sector should work to address the housing crisis. We did focus groups. We did a number of focus groups, low to moderate income residents, both urban and rural, Hmong, Latinx, Black, youth, LGBT, all gave their input, and that some of the more specifics, details of those focus groups are in the report. But here's some comments that people made. People eligible for housing assistance often do not have access to key information about those programs. And that is something I've heard regularly over the years with regards to our housing programs. People in rent-restricted units find it challenging to build financial equity because rents increase as they move up the income ladder. And there's discriminatory practices that continue to impact people of color who are navigating the housing market. We did stakeholder interviews. The consultants did a wide variety of stakeholder interviews with builders, developers, banks, residents, and here are some of the comments that came out of that. The Affordable Housing Development Fund is a game changer in attracting developers, but could support a more diverse array of projects. And when they say the Affordable Housing Development Fund, they mean Dane County's Affordable Housing Development Fund. They believe that it should support a more diverse array of projects, but it's been an excellent contribution to the challenge, to the problem. Rural jurisdictions tend to get proposals for developments under 50 units and cannot access government affordable housing funds. Nonprofit housing developers and builders could be intentionally prioritized to receive affordable housing fund. And then a construction labor shortage is preventing the adequate supply and thus increasing the price of new homes. So once the Housing Advisory Committee reviewed and finished the regional housing analysis, heard the feedback from the public engagement, they reviewed current policy and programs, and practices. And then they took some steps to identify their core values to help guide their work, and a vision statement. Then started to work on identifying their top housing strategies, priorities, and action items. So their core values are accountability, affordability, economic growth, empowerment, equity, and sustainable development. I'll just read, a couple of these. Accountability: all entities, public, private, and nonprofit alike, accept and share responsibility for providing attainable housing. And then say equity. Equity: historically excluded populations and lower income households have access to quality housing. Now, you won't see each of these values specifically identified in the strategies and action items, but the idea is that these values are really to be imbued in all of the things that all of the action items moving forward and the strategies moving forward. Vision statement is that RHS envisions an equitable and environmentally sustainable future where all residents have access to quality and affordable housing in connected neighborhoods. Top housing priorities are increase the number of housing units attainable to low and moderate income households, increase the overall number of housing units, provide housing resources and protections for the most vulnerable populations, rehab and preserve affordability of existing housing, and provide more pathways to homeownership. So the implementation matrix is sort of the core of the regional housing strategy. And this identifies the 5 top housing priorities, 17 action items, 17 strategies, and almost 100 action items. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. It's way too large, but I'll just give you an example of what it looks like. And then we also included in the matrix metrics so we can measure our progress every year. Every year, we're going to be doing an annual progress report. And I'll be putting out a survey every year to glean the information that the Housing Advisory Committee wants to measure. So increase the number of housing units attainable to low and moderate income households. The strategy: expand or create affordable housing funds. As you can see in there, there's some action steps. The implementation partners are identified, or the lead implementation partners identified, and the support partners are identified. This is not, the lead and the support partners are not exhaustive, but this is sort of just, what came out of the final meeting as to who should be involved. Increase the overall number of housing units. One of the top priorities was advance zoning reforms and update local zoning codes. Number of action steps. Who should be the lead and support partners? This is a strategy or priority, really a strategy for rural areas. They're very different than cities and villages, and it's important that they maintain we maintain agricultural preservation. So they have a much more specific matrix just for them, and assess potential for housing and rural development areas, and then the leads and the support partners. And we've already started. My colleagues in the planning department who work with the towns have already started to do outreach to the towns to move this forward. Provide housing resources and protections for the most vulnerable populations. Expand racial equity and inclusion training, education, and communications countywide. Here's some action steps we can take. Develop or identify educational resources and identify intended forums and community audiences, working with local experts on racial equity issues, and then conduct programs on racial equity and inclusion. And then here's some metrics: number and type of new racial equity inclusion training programs, number of residents who received outreach, and then number of people of color employed in real estate and banking industry are some of the metrics. Rehab and preserve existing housing. That was a very important priority for the Housing Advisory Committee. Support acquisition and rehab of affordable units. And then the 5th, provide more pathways to homeownership. This was also very important. Increase or expand homebuyer education and assistance programs throughout the county. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the next steps that Dane County is engaged in, and then some of the examples of cities and villages, opportunities for cities and villages in terms of next steps. So we have just hired a regional housing strategy project assistant, and this person, Alex DeSena, is going to be working on zoning code and comp plan updates, housing chapter comp plan updates. We just released a best practices residential zoning code RFP, and we'll have responses back in about 3 weeks, and then we're going to take some time over the next few months to refine that proposal and we should have that released by October, if not sooner. We are going to be doing, I'm about to release another RFP, or it's an RFI, for a countywide marketing and outreach plan for a 3 to 5 year ad campaign, countywide ad campaign to let residents know about the housing crisis, what it is, what causes it, and what we can do about it. We're working on a construction workforce expansion feasibility study. We've partnered with MadRep. We're still in the pre-development stages of that to address the construction workforce shortage. We're in the process of developing a number of fact sheets, zoning 101, missing middle housing, RHS, affordable housing, and we're going to be doing those this summer. We're working on a comprehensive housing resources website. And then we're also working on how to make your community more friendly to people of color, a webinar series that we should be probably launching in the fall. As part of this process, we realized that the city and the MPO and CARPC and Madison and Dane County, we're all kind of using different analyses and projections. And so we've started meeting to figure out if there's a way we can be a little bit more consistent or proactive in terms of releasing that information on a more regular basis, not only for the county, but for municipalities. So that's under works. And then we are going to continue to do ongoing outreach and research and programming, the newsletter, the housing network meetings, and executive committee meetings. And then again, as I mentioned, the RHS annual progress report. So cities and villages action items. These are some examples. There are probably about 30 or 35 examples or action items for municipalities. And I didn't want to list them all, but here's some top ones that were discussed as part of the housing, by the Housing Advisory Committee. Increase investment to expand housing options, update the zoning code, update TIF policies to support more diverse housing options, including affordable housing, advocate for local bond financing, expand training around racial disparities in housing and homeownership, work to address it, support acquisition rehab to preserve existing affordable housing, provide training around homeownership, to current residents, land banking, and then that's it. So please help spread the word. Read the report, host a conversation or a presentation, and take action with all of us. So thank you. That's it.
Would it be possible for you to share that presentation with the committee? Thank you.
Absolutely.
If you can send it to Joyce, I'm sure she can get it out to us. Thank you. Next on our agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Does anyone have questions?
Actually, Olivia, I do. So working within levy limits, has there been any discussion at the county level that needs to be something that's addressed? Because, the local level, we don't have a checkbook big enough to even work on putting funds in our general fund to do housing. So I'm just wondering, has there been any discussion? Because I think that's something, I know Mike and I have met with a couple of candidates, one for Senate, one for county exec, and they asked what's some of your biggest issues. And we talked about, I would say the number one is levy limits. One of them is parkland dedication and parkland fees and fee in lieu of. And I just feel like there's a lot of pressure coming down the pipeline for the local community to provide. However, the programs that are coming out of the WIDA, we don't even qualify for them. So I feel, and we did mention that, our legislators need to take a look or to talk to the people that are actually doing the work to find out what it is that we need. And, I think education on entitlement too. There's a lot of communities around Dane County City of Madison's the only one that I'm aware of that is an entitlement community. So the rest of us have to compete for CDBG funds. And there's, as you can see, there's a lot of need.
Yeah. So let me just ask you, in order for me to answer that, you just covered a lot of things, but in order for me to answer that, can you say why you don't qualify for the WIDA funds?
Well, every one of them kind of has a string attached. So, first of all, we don't have a downtown. So we don't have those historic, older,
Right.
downtown buildings with a second floor. So we can't capitalize on that program. The developer infrastructure, we have not updated our zoning code. So that's a hindrance for us. And once again, that's another cost to a municipality. So if the state's going to provide funding to a community, they can't have strings attached to everything because we're already fighting. We're already fighting and we have one source of funds for housing, and that's our TIDs. And once that's gone, it's gone. So we have to be very smart and very conscientious about the way we spend our dollars. So that's my sermon.
You are not alone in those sentiments, especially as it relates to the WIDA programs. I just want to let you know that. I'm thinking about bringing back Rebecca Giroux so she can hear municipal feedback, because Leslie said you're not alone in expressing those sentiments about the WIDA program. One of the reasons that we have a new project assistant and we're getting a best practices zoning code is that we want that project assistant to work with municipalities based on the best practices zoning code and RHS recommendations to help municipalities update the residential piece of their zoning code. So that should provide some relief in the coming months. And working with levy limits, I've heard that time and time again. We don't have a coordinated strategy. Regional housing strategy did not address that. It was a discussion, but it didn't come out in the action items. But I'm happy to talk to powers that be in Dane County about levy limits and what that discussion is and how we could actually bring that forward in a more coordinated, strategic way. And then, yes, I do realize that this report or strategic action plan puts a lot of emphasis on municipalities, but it's really very, very, very important to remember that according to the survey, 6,000 people around Dane County, almost 60% think the private sector should be responsible for helping address this housing crisis. And in the coming months, I'm going to try and put together, some examples of what those partnerships look like, because it's really important that the private sector who's driving this growth, and who's really, and we're happy that they're successful, don't get me wrong, but who's driving this disparity between household growth and job growth, which is looks like this, that they be part of the solution, that they be partners in the solution. And I presented to MadRep last week or a couple weeks ago, and they seemed very interested. I got some good feedback about partnering. It's a huge action plan. And so I have, I'll be honest with you, I think 2025 is going to be really the time we're going to focus on public-private partnerships and how we can actually leverage the private sector to solve some of our local housing issues. And probably put together a committee, or maybe it'll be a subcommittee of the executive committee of the regional housing strategy. I'd be happy to have you or someone from Fitchburg sit on that committee, but I think it's really important that we leverage the private sector because this is much bigger than all of us. So
I totally agree with that statement. I feel like it's actually just not a local or regional or state issue. It's a nationwide issue that needs to be, it needs to come from top down. And that's, I guess we're not probably speaking loud enough to maybe our elected officials at the federal level about this. So
I think that, this has been a great conversation, Joyce, and I really appreciate your questions because I do think we could have a more coordinated communication strategy about some of these issues that you're talking about. But I do think it's really important for WIDA and our representative from WIDA, Rebecca Giroux, to hear from municipalities about the challenge of that program, but also to have some sort of a coordinated communication strategy around levy limits and how that's really hindering municipalities. Now, I do know that Dane County and Milwaukee are particularly targeted by these levy limits, so there is that issue that is, sort of the big elephant in the room, and we'll see what happens come November. But I do think you've raised some really important questions and some things for me to think about in terms of this regional perspective that I have that the regional housing strategy has brought forward, and I'd really like to have a dialogue with you and the other municipalities about how to more strategically address this.
Yeah, it's hard when we can't really lobby, so we have to count on our elected officials to do that for us. But I think a collective group, that it is a conversation that needs to be had, whether it's at the cities and villages or, where, the league, I don't know, but it's something that really, because our hands are really tied. And it's not that we don't want to do things. It's just, there's cause and effect to everything, so.
Right, a multi-pronged strategy. Now, I will tell you, just in terms of the zoning piece, because municipalities are sort of, everyone's doing it differently. Some municipalities are doing the whole zoning code, which is a multi-year process, and some of them are just looking at doing the housing chapter in the residential zoning code. And I think, we have one person at the county. I'm not sure that could, really, cover the entire county and people who needed their zoning code and their housing chapter updated. But I was going to say we applied for some funding for grant funding for zoning. I'm not sure we're going to get that, but that is potentially something that we could attempt to put in the next budget cycle to help municipalities with supporting them with updating their residential zoning codes.
Thanks.
So let's continue this discussion. You raised some really good points, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Any more questions? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so I just want to say, Olivia, thank you so much for the presentation. I was at the kickoff event, I guess it was back in early May, and it was fantastic. It was so great to see so many people in the room that cared about this. I know you were over capacity above and beyond what you expected, which is what a delightful surprise that was. So thank you for all the work you've done on the lead up to this, and appreciate the presentation. I guess digging into bringing it to Fitchburg, I'm curious what you think the role of this committee could be in assisting the city with implementing the plan. So, the council has limited time to do these sorts of things, but is it possible for this committee to do some work as digging into the implementation matrix and making recommendations? I know city staff has a significant role to play, but I'm curious if you have any feedback about what we could be doing here.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head, Gabriella. I think that one of the things I'm thinking about doing is, this report is so big and we need to unpack it, is to create a fact sheet for cities and villages of the top priorities and action items that came out of the regional housing strategy. But I certainly think that it would be a great use of time for this housing advisory committee to go through those top priorities and housing action items, look at what you're doing, what you've already done, and identify, the top 5, next best things that Fitchburg could be doing. And one of them might be this discussion that we just started today, Joyce, that you just initiated with, how do we address the prison of levy limits, and what can we expect from the private sector, or what are the kind of things that we want to work on with the private sector? Because I think come 2025, it'll be really helpful for me to understand what exactly or how exactly we should be partnering with the private sector. And, there were some ideas in the regional housing strategy, but that's something else that I can, bring to your attention and we can discuss. But I think that this would be a great place to look at the key priorities for cities and villages that came out of the Housing Advisory Committee, narrow those, and put those forward to your committee of the whole.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I think it's a great role for this committee, because I know the issue is so big that it's hard to figure out exactly where to take action. But the county has done that for us and done it in a regional sense. So it's such a great opportunity for us. And I know the mayor also said we're looking at a comp plan update. We're looking at zoning code. updates already, but the fact that we'll have those resources at the county, thank you for providing that for us. I also want to say, I would love to have you come to a committee of the whole meeting and present to the Fitchburg City Council to get them in the loop about these items so they're starting to get educated. And I think if we do start doing the work on the implementation matrix here on this committee, we should consider getting someone from the planning department in here as well, and even invite plan commission members to come and sit in to see, because obviously that committee is a big piece of this as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, and I'm happy to, next time we're together, present a fact sheet that narrows down that kind of culls all the city and village action items for housing out of the regional housing strategy.
Jenny going next.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
I was just going to echo some of Joyce's comments. Other partners that should be at the table on the levy limits discussion is the League of Municipalities, the Wisconsin Realtors Association, and the builders released that housing ready checklist. And I know our development team is going to go through that next week, Tuesday, at one of our regular meetings that we have to kind of see what we've done and where we need to go. That includes things like updating the zoning code and those kind of things. But they need to be at the table as far as having that discussion with the legislators about the levy limits and also flexibility with the park improvement fees as well. I think that's another thing that we've been emphasizing to our state legislators or people that we've been meeting and having those discussions with. And then Olivia, with Rebecca at WIDA, I think one of the frustrations for us is you have to meet all these guidelines in order to get the funding. And like Joyce said, we've got constraints with levy limits, but also just staff capacity, because we're going to do a zoning code rewrite next year, but it's a matter of when can we get to it. We've got the money to do it. It's a matter of when we can get to it from a staff capacity. But the one conversation we'd like to have with Rebecca is, by virtue of us having our smart code within our zoning code ordinance, could we qualify for those infrastructure funds within smart code areas and neighborhoods? Because as you saw from the latest Smart Growth Greater Madison analysis and how efficient Fitchburg is, credit to our Planning and Public Works Department moving projects through the entitlement process, a big part of that is through our smart code and that we can process things administratively. So we'd like to have a conversation with Rebecca to say, we know we need to still update our traditional Euclidean zoning code, but in smart code areas, can we qualify for that funding and financing by virtue of having that unique zoning code in place here in Fitchburg?
Thank you for those remarks. That's really helpful, Mike. And you said the people that need to be at the table, in addition to the cities and villages, League of Municipalities, the builders, and who else? The
Realtors Association at the state level. They're the ones that release that housing ready checklist that communities are supposed to go through.
Yeah, okay, excellent.
And Olivia, I have just one this is probably my pet peeve, but the CDBG survey that was sent out, I know Madison and Dane County has a consolidated plan, but the perception when it comes out from Madison and Dane County is that the dollars might be flowing more towards Madison when there's communities out there like ours that have more diversity than Madison. And I just think it's a perception that needs to kind of maybe be toned down a little bit. But we're going to have a conversation with in a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to share that again. But it's just, when you're asking people to do that, and Madison gets an allocation of their own dollars, it's a perception of the way it looks to the public.
They should be separate.
I think so, because Madison has different needs than what Fitchburg does, than what Sun Prairie does. Just my 2 cents.
I'm glad you brought CDBG back up again, because I will tell you that Joanna Cervantes, who's the staff person who supports the CDBG program, and this, Godwin, she told me last week or the week before that there were literally no applications for housing funds to the CDBG program this year. Completely unusual. Even Habitat, who applies every year, has, is well funded, at least from CDBG at this point, did not apply. So that is a very underutilized program as far as I'm concerned for municipalities. So I would encourage you to meet with Joanna Cervantes and find out how Fitchburg can avail themselves of those funds. And I'm telling all the other municipalities about this as well, because not a single municipality came in for any housing funds or nonprofits for housing funds. And that's highly unusual. Godwin, did you want to? You're on mute, Godwin.
One of the things that bothered me last year was the fact that we were giving a lot of money to a couple of construction entities, and I was not very happy about that. Let's give as many entities, some money rather than just give the whole thing to just one big group. So it's something that I'm very, very, I'm very sensitive to. I mean, if we have so much money, let's try to spread it as much as possible, because this whole thing is going to, sooner or later, is something we'll all really, really be, somewhere saying bought its stuff. You can't give all the money to one entity. That's one of the projects they had at one time. They had, actually, it was they said it were two companies, but it was basically the same two companies, and we gave them all the money they needed for them. I like to bring that down so that we do give people an opportunity to make sure that it goes to one, it goes to another one, rather than try to put all the amount to one entity by, whatever they did in order to get it. So that's something we should also put in the back of our mind. We want to spread this to as many people as possible. That's the nature of what we're supposed to do. And that's really what we get at the federal bank, the federal government, to make sure that we spread the money to entities, not just give all to one entity and then they take the money and run. But just listen to your presentation today. One of the things that was in the back of my mind all the time is that maybe my colleagues might make a comment out here. I think sooner or later we may want to just get a staff that's just basically doing this for us, because at the rate of the growth, we need people who can, answer the questions, etc. The two friends that we have up there, they do a mighty job, but we probably need to have somebody else to help them out as much as possible. I think Fitchburg should start thinking about that. I mean, seriously, two people that do a lot of our work, to me, are wonderful people, but we probably need to put some more money up there to make sure that we get enough people to help us do what we want to do. Let's not be cheap at all, please.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Mike.
Hey, Godwin, just to let you know, we've got the Housing Initiatives and Program Specialist position that was in the budget for this year. We've went through the recruitment process, and we've got a great candidate, and she will be starting on Monday, July 22nd, to add some additional
you're doing well.
housing capacity. Yes, and so we're looking forward to that, and of course have a lot of work to do, and we'll keep that person very busy moving things forward. And then, Olivia, to your comment about the CDBG or home funds there, Fitchburg will be bringing forward our rent-to-own program to our elected officials later this summer. The townhome program that we've been working on for the last 3 years, and hopefully we get a go or no-go decision. If it's a go from the elected officials, one of the applications we plan to submit is for some grant funding through either CDBG and or home to help with kind of the capital stack and some of the gaps that were identified in that program. So we're anxiously awaiting to bring it forward to the council. Hopefully we get their support, and then we would be somebody that would submit for one of those programs.
Excellent. That's great to hear. That's really great to hear.
Excellent. Excellent.
Any more questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Olivia. Next on
My
the
pleasure.
agenda is a presentation by Ms. Hillary Parker on Habitat for Humanity in Dane County.
Hello, lovely people. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Okay. Good and the best.
Good. Well, I would like to thank the members of the committee for this opportunity to share my screen and give you all a little bit of fun with what's going on with Habitat. Apparently, I need to give it. Okay. Any chance you can see that?
No.
Not yet.
Joyce, you may need to help me on this simply because my Zoom is not cooperating very well.
Did you hit share screen?
I didn't register.
Yes, and it's asking me to restart in order to present.
Oh, you might have to do that. Is that your
Darn
computer?
Zoom. Joyce, if you have the presentation, can you put it up for us? Is that doable? And if not, I can restart.
We're gonna try and work with our
it on mine.
group here to
Right
see if
there.
we can
Yeah.
get it.
I don't know how, I mean, you've got to share my screen. I'm not
With the
typing
brilliant
anything.
Scott.
Yep, Scott's working on it.
Well, then it's all but done. While we're working on it, let me address a couple of questions. And first, thank you to this
is a
committee for
Mac.
hearing all of these challenges, and thank you for inviting Olivia. I have had the great good fortune of also attending the event where we kicked off this regional housing strategy plan, and we could not be more excited about it at Habitat. On the CDBG funding end, I will say there have been some additional necessary items that they have requested that have been making it all but impossible for us to apply in good faith from a staffing perspective. In other words, whatever they were going to be able to give us, we can't afford to ask for. And we've been having those conversations with Joanna and her team and giving some feedback. And I would love to tell you that that's going to work out shortly. We don't know. So. Okay, any luck?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, the good news is most of these are pictures and you don't always need that. So while we're getting there, because I want to be respectful of your time, let me talk to you a little bit about what Habitat for Humanity of Dane County does. We create, and this is our niche, homeownership opportunities for families who fall below the 60% Dane County median income. So we do 4 programs. We have home building, home repair, financial capability training, and we have our restores, one east, one west. So again, we exclusively work on home ownership because for us it's about building equity for our neighbors, and we know that home ownership provides stability for them, their kids, future generations, provides that chance to earn equity the way that so many of us were able to do before. I can give you a little bit of information about how we do that. And the special sauce, the secret sauce of Habitat is really, really key. We cap the payment of our families to 28% of their gross income.
Okay.
Thank you. We're on slide 3.
You want to go to slide 3?
Good. All right.
You guys are the greatest.
No.
Almost good.
No, I'm not.
There you go. One more.
One more. There?
There we go.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Page 3, slide number 8. Okay. Page 3 of 13.
You're doing great. Thank
Okay.
you. So when we sell homes to our partner families, Again, this is between that 30 and 60% AMI income. We cap their payments at 28% of their income. That's important because, as we all know, one of the hardest parts about whether you're renting or owning is making that monthly payment, right? Some of the other challenges that our families experience are they can't get 20% down payment saved. For a $600,000 house, who can, right? So we've started to say, okay, you can do 1% and you can have 18 months to collect that 1%. You don't have to give it to us right away. We also ask them to put in what we call sweat equity hours, which is a simple way of helping the families getting educated about their homes or educated about additional financial benefits. So we really work with these families. We look at consolidating debt in order to get them into the program. We look at how we can assist them in bringing all resources to bear in as much of a one-stop shop as we can. And I think that's an important part of our service. As part of being a family member, they attend 40 or more hours of educational classes to prepare themselves for home ownership. And with this model, which is very similar to the national model, right? It just varies slightly. We have built 353 homes and sold them to low and moderate income families since we were founded here in 1987. We've also funded the building of 242 homes outside of the United States through a number of tithing programs. And we're still on 3, we're good. We've performed 44 home repair projects. We've trained 57 people in addition to our families in financial capabilities. And today, all in all, 696 families have been served by Habitat Dane. So that's a pretty big impact considering, 1987 numbers all the way today to here. Slide 4, please. So where does Habitat build? Well, we're currently building in 4 communities. We're building in Sun Prairie, South Madison, Oregon, and Stoughton. And in the coming year, we're looking to consolidate into South Madison, Oregon, and Stoughton. But as you can tell, we've worked a little bit of everywhere. Basically, if you can partner with us on the availability of land, the availability of a lot, creative financing, we'll do everything we can to meet you there. And that's one of the reasons I'm really excited to talk to this group today. Next slide, please. So what have we done in Fitch? Let's talk about that. In Fitchburg, we built 36 homes between 2008 and 2021, and that served 143 individuals, including 85 children. We know that breakdown of these households in Fitchburg looked like this. Around 31% Black and Brown, 19% Asian, and then 25% Hispanic, 25% white. Those incomes ranged from 28% of that median income in Dane County to 62.5%. So that's roughly $37,000 a year to $75,000 a year for a family of 4. These were built, and these are pictures of Renaissance on the Park, which is one of our developments. So we're really proud of that, and we're really excited to work with Fitchburg in the future. Next slide, please. And regarding our Habitat Home Repair Program, through volunteer labor, we're preserving homes and, revitalizing neighborhoods. This is a low-cost home repair program to income qualified folks throughout Dane County. There are always more jobs than we have the funding to do, but we're working on that. And we do have some rules. The property has to be owned and occupied by the applicants. Homeowners have to be current on their property, water, mortgage payments, that sort of thing. But we can get them approved to qualify for a $5,000 credit toward repairs in the city of Madison and a 0% loan for the cost of these repairs. And we would love to talk to Fitchburg about whether we can do something like that there. Next slide, please. With our financial capability training, this is where we work hand in hand with families. We improve their credit. We work on budgeting, general financial health, so that when they get those keys, they are in a position of strength. It is very important, particularly with our historically excluded communities. It is very important that we switch that opportunity, that we switch that narrative with them. We have a habit in this country of preying a little bit on people that we think would make fantastic debtors. And that is not how Habitat wants our families to feel. We want them to feel knowledgeable and empowered. We want them to feel supported. We want their priorities to matter. Next slide, please. So how do we fund this? Restore is one of the ways we fund this. And our Restore mission is to fund the Habitat home building, but there are some additional benefits. We do keep items out of the landfill. We feel good about that. We offer low-cost materials to the community. And we have this great new program that we started during the pandemic called Furniture Bank. And this is where a family experiencing being unhoused can apply through their social service worker to Habitat to receive an entire house of furniture for free. This is most common when people are experiencing being unhoused in the traditional sense. It's also when they are experiencing any kind of domestic violence, any kind of recovery program. When you exit from a recovery program, then what, right? Well, you can give us a call and we'll set you up, because that is a key component to helping our families provide safe and stable places for themselves. You don't have to be a homeowner. These can be, these can go to a rental unit, the basement that someone is loaning to, anything. And there are no income restrictions there. So next slide, please. One of the other ways that we provide money for all of our work is, of course, through fundraising. And Alderperson Gerhart knows a little bit about that, as she mentioned. But in all of our work, what we really want to do is we want to create that equity. We've created so far more than $5 million in home equity for these, historically excluded families. So it averages around 70,000 plus, which is great. And, again, we know that homeownership still today helps create those long-term solutions for a proven track record. Next slide, please. This is our median home value by census tract. This is a slightly fuzzy version of the map that Olivia had alluded to, where you can see, Fitchburg is in need, and we're eager to work with you, to collaborate, to think outside the box, to do things creatively. One of my favorite things about being new to this organization and having a chance to ask, why do we do it that way, is it turns out there is some flexibility that we haven't leveraged before, likely because as the organization has continued to scale, we now have additional capacity to be creative. So I'm very interested in working together on some of those things. Next slide, please. So how does your average person help Habitat? Your average person can donate. Boy, does that do a lot for us. You can volunteer. You can be on a job site. You can be at the Restore. You can even come into the office and help us sort receipts. That's a big one. Or you can shop at or donate to Habitat Restores. Now, what can Fitchburg do? What can the Fitchburg Housing Advisory Committee do? Next slide, please. We want you to keep us top of mind. We really want to continue our work in Fitchburg. We want you to think of us and reach out whenever that subject of affordable housing comes up. I don't want you to ever say, well, Habitat, they're so busy, or gosh, I don't know if that's really up their alley. If we're busy, we'll tell you, but we're preparing to scale. So we'd like you to be part of what makes us busier. And if we can't help you, we know who can. And we would love to introduce you or more likely to learn from you, some other people. And then second, land. This is the biggest challenge for us. Ideally, we aren't doing one-off projects on a lot that nobody else wants to build on. Ideally, we're doing 3 or more builds, or we can partner on a larger development like we have out in Sun Prairie. So let's keep talking about that. We're prepared to partner, we're preparing to scale. And then, of course, funding. We are the best builder you'll find for affordable housing. But to put up a duplex for us right now, that's 2 families in whether it's Oregon or South Madison, it's costing us around $600,000. And that includes the discounts for, the bulk volunteer labor. That includes charitable donations of major appliances. So it's still not cheap, right? So we need help. We need you to help us work together. Next slide, please. And this is our thank you slide from some of our amazing family members. One thing that I want this group to know is that we really are putting on our visionary hats to be true participants in the Dane County community when it comes to affordable housing. We care very much about finding new and better ways to do things. We are going to spend the next several years revitalizing our construction program, and we're trying some interesting new things. For example, we're about to sign a contract with a developer to do some private run developer work for a build. We're going to put an apples to apples build together, 2 duplexes. And, how did their build work? How did our build work? So we're really excited about that. And we do see a goal of getting to 50 homes per year. It's a longer term goal, about 10 years likely. We're currently doing between 12 and 15 a year. But again, relying on that general contractor could be the sweet spot. So let's talk. Let's get into the weeds on some of these things. Let's figure out how Habitat can do things even slightly differently than we've done them before, including partnering with the city on not only the 30 to 60% folks, but also even 100 to 120%. We would be happy to. As a CDFI lender, we have the capability to lend CDFI funds to people who still qualify, and we can charge not a 0% rate, but we can charge maybe a 4% rate, which is still better than the going rate. We know that getting people in houses helps housing in general. So if we can think outside the box, we want to do that, and we want to partner with Fitchburg. Questions? Yes.
God, I have a comment. And my comment obviously is I want to make sure that in your report, these are the things that have happened over the last 36 months, or 36 things that you talked about. That between 2008 and 2021 is when you've had some habitat activity here in Fitchburg. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I just want to say, well, that's interesting. We know your people and we know you very well. So our hope is that something is going to happen as soon as possible. For us now in Fitchburg, all of this matter, Hillary. So let's get some of your people.
Amen.
This is 13 years that you've not done anything for us. We live here, just so you know that.
Oh, amen. I totally get that. It has to do with just all of the things that have to align for us to be able to commit to a project. And, we have to go where our land bank allows. So we have to consistently negotiate for land. We have to consistently figure out what we can buy and afford. And then we have to figure out, how to get those builds taken care of. So it's never, ever an instance of we're moving out of someplace or we're moving over here instead because we value these people more or differently. It is never that case. It is very simply, where do we have land to build? We are very much at the mercy of the availability and affordability of land.
We live in Fitchburg, got a lot of land, and I'll stop right there.
Well, let's do it then.
Hillary, I've got a quick question. You mentioned it was $600,000 to build a duplex currently in the suburban area. Did that cost include the land or just the structure itself?
Just the structure.
Okay, thank you.
Although it would have been $600,000.50 because in that case, the lot was 50 cents. Thank you, City of Madison.
Okay.
Hillary, it's Joyce. I have a couple questions. So when you're looking for projects, are you just looking, I mean, we have some infill lots that are here and there. Is that the kind of projects that you're looking for, or are you looking for maybe like you did over in Renaissance where you bought the remainder of the 32 lots that were there? Can you give us a little bit more? Do you have families that say, I'd like to live in this community, or how does that work? Can you give a little background?
Yeah, Joyce, thanks. That's a great question. What we do is, again, at the mercy of what land we can collect and then build on, we offer different spaces to the people within our program. And the people within our program can say, I want to sit out a year or two because they really want a Sun Prairie home, for example, and they know we won't have one until year after next. Or they say, ooh, I really want that Oregon duplex. If it's not going to be ready this year, I'll wait a year. So there is some flexibility. As for the infill lots, yes, we'll do it. But boy, does it, it runs up our costs for sure. We had to learn that the hard way because being a nonprofit, we don't have 6 of everything. So if we need the skid steer somewhere, we have to put it on a truck and take it from, Sun Prairie over to Fitchburg and then take it back. So there are some real aspects of that where we are a little limited. Again, just in the past 7 months that I've been here, we have taken a look at so many of our practices and looked to not only modernize some of them, but hopefully leapfrog into, okay, what's next? Not just, this, the way we build is a little, it's a little antiquated. What else could we do? We want to start looking at ways that put up houses faster, more efficiently, and ideally, yes, in a suburb where we can do more than 3 or more units. But listen, if this general contractor experience or experiment works the way I think it will, that's something we could explore with her. Because she works with subs. So the subs are bringing their equipment, right? It's less Habitat having to truck everything around and more her coordinating them to do that. So, yes, we would prefer it, but boy, let's talk. We're also very interested in where certain developers run into trouble filling out something they started. Maybe they've got 3 or 4 lots that never went anywhere. Give us a call. Let's make a deal.
So I have a couple more questions for you. So I'm just going to keep them coming to you. Resales. How does that work? Do you have like a deed restriction or anything like that? So say I've kind of I'm moving. Do you look for a new family to go in there, or does it go right back on the market for a market rate? And then I'm curious curious what the appreciation is.
Yep, it goes right back on the market for market rate. The appreciation has to do with comps in the area, just like any home. Because once we sell it to our families, it is theirs until and unless they sell. So we continue to service the loans, but other than that, that is all the involvement that we have. Occasionally a homeowner will say, okay, this was a great starter home. I'm ready to move, up into something a little closer to work or whatever it is. They have always the open invitation to call us and say, would you like first shot at this at market rate? And if we can do a deal where they're happy and we're happy, I mean, we probably would put another family in there. We have done it in the past. But the most important thing to us is protecting that equity for that homeowner, because otherwise the model falls apart. And it's one of the challenges, frankly, with some of the land trust related building projects. We need homes done every single way. But on a land trust, if you're limited to 20% of the market income, you can't build equity that way. Keep them coming, Joyce. Keep them coming.
So years back, in my previous life, I worked for a lot of different communities, and I recall a project in the town of Madison where Habitat acquired an apartment building, and they did a rehab on it, and then they sold them as condos. Is that kind of, I talked to Steve, is it? A little bit about that concept, and I think it's a great concept to maybe investigate again, just because we have older units, so there's the potential to get some great sweat equity into them, and it's a great way to enter into home ownership, and especially with the way banking is with condominiums, it's.
Ooh, you just said it. It's been a mess. Yes, we're very interested in that. We're interested for several reasons. One, existing land, existing structure. Making use of that just feels like a no-brainer. But also because we know that condo or townhome model is, in so many cases, the best affordable step to get on that housing ladder. I just moved from a mountain town in Montana, and I spent 12 years in a condo because there was no way I was going to be able to afford a home without building up a ton of equity. The houses there started at $500,000, and that was, So I know that personally. We also, as Habitat, know that is something that is needed. We know that the rental developers tend to just let those places go, which make them a terrible use of land and resources, and we would love to get in there.
And then my last question is, do you purchase sheriff sales? Do you look at that kind of? Because I think
we would be open to that.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna.
What I would say about that is that, yes, please. What we find is we typically get out competed, but but we can work on that too. And again, the entire goal of using, as a CDFI, using some of those HUD funds in a different way to pass through those HUD funds to people who still qualify for affordable housing but are beyond that 60% AMI in Dane County. The whole goal of that would be to do what the Twin Cities have done, which is to buy up properties and flip them and keep them affordable for folks. So yes, we are interested in every bit of a both and approach.
Particular auction? What, sheriff auctions or what? What was that?
So a sheriff sale is when there's like delinquent taxes on a property. Or a mortgage that's in default, or
well, I've heard
something
about
like that.
Yeah, but I've not heard of the sheriff sale with delinquent taxes. So, okay. Thank you.
And Joyce, I'll just pipe in here if you don't mind. I've talked to our county treasurer because they're the ones who deal with the delinquencies. This has been a conversation for many years because we're like, oh, wow, all these delinquencies, let's do something about that. Well, so they do whatever they can not to have these delinquencies to help homeowners stay in their homes. And there are only a very few that actually go to the auction block every year. And you typically can't buy them without cash payment.
Which we have, but an unplanned cash payment
Right.
can be a difficult thing to handle depending on how, just where we are in our cash flow roller coaster.
Yeah. But I mean, it's literally like maybe one home or two couple homes a year. It's much less than you would actually think. And you're right, as Hillary said, there's huge competition for them.
Isn't that, though, where the Urban League were able to pick up their single family? That was kind of my understanding, is they were
Not that I know of.
distressed
No,
sales. Okay.
that's not what I understand. No, they had no relationship to the county treasurer office or delinquencies. It was I think my understanding is that they just had insider information about people needing to get out of their homes, but there was nothing on the tax rolls or delinquency or like an auction, none of that.
Different subject. So Hillary, from your presentation, I understand that Habitat Humanity is its own general contractor and it is its own architect. Is that true?
Yes, we do our own builds, but again, we are also going out this coming fiscal year, starting July 1, with a general contractor of, as a partner. So both and.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, comments? Okay. Nope. Okay. Thank you for the presentation, Hillary. It was very good.
Thank you.
We enjoyed. Okay, next on the agenda is a report from the department, particularly the Efficiency Navigator Checklist.
So in your packet, I included the site analysis for our Efficiency Navigator program. I just wanted to share it with you so you have an idea of what the actual assessment would look like when the efficiency navigators go out into the neighborhood. And they're also looking if there's any feedback on any items that might be missing from the checklist. I had our building inspection department look through it, and we both agree that it's a really great comprehensive list. One of the things that Mike and I have asked them to really focus on too is the kind of the safety issues. So they are going to be looking at lighting and tree trimming and you name it, in addition to fire safety, because we want to make sure that if that's an area where we can assist with maybe some funding, that would be especially in some of our older units. So any comments on the checklist?
I got one.
Okay.
You have ranges. You want a picture of the range, like the stove?
Yep, they're going to take pictures because they want to be able to come back to the city with a comprehensive assessment of each one of the units that
How about the
they're considering.
refrigerator too, or about an appliance package? Might be a different way of putting it in
Okay.
there, because refrigerators can be an issue too. So
What about critter infestations?
Yeah, they'll be looking for
that
that as well.
sort of
We're
more
looking for
general?
any kind of health and safety issues. So that will be something that they'll be looking at.
And then things like asbestos and lead paint
I believe that
specifically.
So we'll be providing them with the ages of the buildings. You have to keep in mind Fitchburg's not that old, so we don't have a lot of housing that was pre-1978 when there was lead paint issues. And asbestos, I don't know if, that's kind of a specialty. So I can ask about those. We're meeting on Wednesday to have our first kind of meeting, and they're going to be doing a segment with FACTv, and our actual kickoff will be Monday, June 17th.
Do we have homes in mind for the first? Okay. How many homes are we going to start with?
We're doing, this is rental units. We're starting in the 4 Healthy neighborhood, so it'll depend upon what actual owners want to participate in the project.
But we don't have any scheduled at this point?
No.
Okay.
Because it's a kickoff.
Great.
Next week.
We're just getting started.
Yep, we're just starting.
All right. Exciting.
And it's all volunteer, correct? All the participants for this would be volunteer. To say, yeah, you can come inspect. Okay. Okay. Olivia, you have a question?
Joyce, I remember in one of our earlier meetings, we talked about, it was internal building safety, like some of the common, maybe the stairwells were not lit properly, or the washing machine rooms. Anyway, internal building safety in terms of lighting, I think, is a super important thing. And you have lighting on here, but it refers to external lighting. And maybe this isn't an exhaustive list, but that's just something I thought about when I saw this, because I know that's a big concern for, especially, just public safety, but women's safety, particularly in buildings, proper internal lighting are adequate.
Yep, they'll be looking for things like that. Smoke alarms that aren't hooked up or don't have batteries. They'll be looking for hallways that aren't lit properly. They'll be looking at stairs going into buildings to see if they're, in good repair.
Stairways throughout the whole building, because a lot of people sometimes just take stairways in some of those smaller apartment buildings. So stairway lighting. Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent.
So our focus is on 16 units or less. And the renter has to be at 80% or less of AMI. Also has to pay utilities. So when we did our neighborhood assessments, we've identified several buildings that we're going to start with. And I did get an email today that they're already kind of doing some work based upon when we went out as a collective group to look at properties. So they're very excited to get started.
So I'm assuming that the safety issue, that would involve locks, checking that all the locks work properly. Is that kind of part of that umbrella of safety?
It's more of sustainable, energy efficient updates.
Safety that way. Okay.
Yeah. And then since we're talking about Efficiency Navigator, the city of Fitchburg was contacted by the city of Madison, who is looking to put in a planning grant with the Department of Energy to scale this program. And the grant was for planning. So we've been notified that we've been selected. However, we have not received the actual award. So some good things will be coming out of this whole collaboration. So it's Middleton, Madison, Sun Prairie, and Fitchburg. So we're working as a team to come up with this program in detail that can be scaled. And then we've also been contacted from Eau Claire, that they've heard about the Efficiency Navigator program and they would like to implement something up there. So we've got a good
That's
thing
awesome.
going. Yeah, pretty exciting.
That's awesome. That's very exciting, Joyce. And that you're working with all these other municipalities. Now, you said you got a grant or we got money funding?
So what happens is the funding is it's a planning grant. And once you receive the planning grant, then you're in a pool to actually get funds for implementation. And if my memory serves me correct, it's up to $1 million. So, I mean, we could really do some great things in these communities with those dollars.
Where's the money from again?
I think it's Department of Energy. We actually applied for a couple of different grants. And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. Jessica said as long as I said we have not received the money, but we have been selected. Right. So it goes to show you that regionalism does work and collaboration does work.
Who was the lead on it?
City of Madison, their sustainability department.
Excellent.
Anything else that you guys would like to add?
No, I guess the only other report that we have is we mentioned that we're meeting with Dane County staff for the CDBG, the 5-year strategic plan. So we're excited to meet with them. Mike mentioned that our housing specialist will be starting July 22nd. So we're really excited to have her on board. And then I'm going to be putting together a few slides for Olivia for a presentation to talk about the initiatives that the city of Fitchburg is working on for affordable housing for our next Dane County Housing Network meeting. So, do you have anything
On
else?
Thursday.
I hope I can get a screen share to work.
You can just send me your slides if you want to, Joyce. Hey, do you have a sense of what your new staff person is going to be working on?
I know Mike and I kind of talked, we'd really like to have them focus on our housing plan. Now that the regional housing plan is out there, if there's maybe some, we have several action items in our own plan that we've been working towards, and that thank you to this group for helping us identify needs, and that was the biggest thing that we worked on in the very beginning. So we'll have that person take a look at where we're at with our own housing plan, and then probably find out ways that we can incorporate working with the county as well. You'll get to meet her. We'll have her at our next meeting. And she's very excited to get started.
If Habitat can help at all, yeah, we'd love to just chat with her, meet with her, explain our model, that sort of thing.
Joyce, is it possible for that presentation you're going to be doing for the Dane County group, could you send that to the advisory committee so we can take a look too?
Do I have to? I'm not. Absolutely, I can share with you, that we have the projects that we're actually working on, the rent to own. And I'm going to give an update as to where we're at with that. We have our affordable units within a market rate. We've been working really hard on that. We have our efficiency navigator program that's now launched, and we're moving forward.
Did you use TIF funds for your new housing specialist, or is that from a different pot of money?
No. It was a new position. What did you say, Julia?
I think she mentioned land banking, because in the CIP. Yeah, the CIP just came out,
okay.
Yesterday, I think.
I think that's it from me.
Godwin has his hand raised.
Oh, Godwin, you're muted.
I don't know. Sorry. I'm aware of the fact that there have been several CDBG meetings in other parts of our county and other communities. I want to make sure that people on our staff can also recommend that people come to Fitchburg at a CDBG meeting. So whatever you can do in that area is something that I think it's in our best, for something we're best to for ourselves. So if you talk to the people at CDBG and tell them if we have the capacity to do that, it'd be nice to have them have that meeting in the city of Fitchburg. It's possible. I'm getting better, so I know exactly what's happening. Just so you know that.
Anything else regarding the department reports? No. Are there any announcements? No? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Who seconded? Godwin. Okay. We're done.
Thank you, everyone. Great to see you.
Thanks.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for the presentation, Saul.
Thanks, Sylvia and Hillary.